So it hasn't been that long since I first started reading about um, inactivism and embodied cognition, but it's weird to me how much it's impacted me philosophically, and it's not that it. I think it's not that it's gotten me into all these other new ideas. It's actually kind of given me a framework for a lot of ideas that I was already into. um, and help me kind of see the general direction that my whole worldview has been going in. Um, where I'm coming to see like every aspect of reality I look at, I'm seeing in more of an embodied perspective. With an active cognition is based, it talks about uh, about cognition, the mind as being embodied in the world, in our relationship to the world, um, and this non-dualistic idea of self and the world as being not fundamentally separate. Um, and then I kind of apply that to some other ideas I've had. Economics is a big one for me. Yeah, I've mentioned in one of my videos about ecological economics and the idea of understanding our economy as sort of a subsystem of ecology, and how we have to uh, uh, put understand biophysical limits in our economic theories, and be able to adjust our economic theories accordingly. Um, and I've even, for years now, I've advocated uh, the ideas of Henry George about using natural resources, or the commons, as I often talk about, the sort of natural resources that we've all inherited, in the wealth that we've all inherited from nature, by using that as our tax base, by taxing land, um, charging for the amount of water people use, taxing carbon and pollutants, and things like that, so that we can actually support the functions of government based on, by taxing people not on what they produce with their own labor, but what they take from the commons, or what they take from our from nature, essentially. Um, and so, I've long had this idea about our tax base being sort of embodied in the natural world. It just never kind of occurred to me how that idea could be applied to sort of embodied philosophy. Um, and then, I've also been an advocate of using technology to take technology in more of an organic direction, not in a more primitive direction, like back towards hunter gatherer days, because that'd be impossible. Um, but using technology as take an ecological view of technology, and creating cities as part of the natural, and sort of, I guess, integrating cities into the natural ecology, so that they're part of a continuum with the ecosystem, and having nature function in unison with nature, and uh, not conquer nature, but harness nature's power um, in making our lives easier. Um, and then I've also talked about embodied spirituality, natural spirituality. I've come to. I mean, my spirituality is basically Whiteheadian, but I kind of have been exploring the sense in which Whiteheadian cosmology is so embodied in the world, and brings us to this idea of where spirit and matter aren't really two separate things. They're all one thing. I mean, I'm when I say, but of course, when I say matter, I'm not talking about the Newtonian concept of matter. I think matter is just a matter of is just relations between things where nothing exists in and of itself. Everything is all exists in relation to everything else. And so that reality is fundamentally relational, and it's also fundamentally temporal, evolving. And so, taking that and understanding a reality that is embodied in time, and then going back to economics, I've also talked about that, about how so much economic analysis is sort of stuck in a sort of static equilibrium, and doesn't have the sort of time consciousness that we need. And so, yeah, I guess I've been noticing the general trend of my whole worldview has been towards this sort of sense of embodiment of everything that's embodied in the world, including spirit. In the idea that spirit is not something separate from matter. Spirit isn't fused in matter. It isn't fused that everything is spirit, and everything and spirit is physical. And so I guess kind of my general message is about re-enchanting ourselves with the physical world in a way that isn't reductionist, that doesn't because I think that scientific materialism is actually kind of infused with a certain dualism about between the world and our thoughts about the world. And I've kind of been wanting to move towards a sort of non-dual understanding of physical and spiritual reality as both being the same thing. Neither and the apparent separation of the two is just us having an incomplete picture of them, and not following through on their full implications. So I'll leave it there. Peace.